It's time to wake up, recover from last night's mess, and get your fix of sports caffeine. It's time to kickstart your day with the latest sports news and opinions. Get ready. Sports Caffeine is live in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back to Sports Caffeine. You can't see me right now because we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but I am your host, Kaylee. I'm here with Evan and Chip. We got it. Yay.
Hey, that was pretty good considering.
I was like, I'll just start talking because, for our audio friends, they're going to be like, what's going on? Yeah, we're here on Tuesday morning. I know I did not get my full 8 hours of sleep, so I'm a little groggy. Obviously, we're off to a hot start here. How are you guys doing?
Good. Tuesday, and I had to run the stuff today, which is scary. Scary for me.
I'm Wi-Fi-less, so that's why I'm broadcasting from my cell phone, and I have earbuds in because I have no Wi-Fi in my house right now.
Oh, I don't love that for you, but
those
we're going.
Wi-Fi guys getting after you.
Well, we're here. We've got it running now. We're in, so we should be good. Let's hop into the World Series in honor of Game 6 tonight at 8. But I want to go back to Game 4 because I think that's kind of what everyone's been talking about since Saturday. Obviously, that Brett Phillips hit, the Arozarena run. Was that the best World Series game in history? Evan, we'll start with you.
I don't want to be biased or anything.
When does that ever stop you?
I know, right? Because I've seen a lot of baseball in my lifetime, and after that, you can't get better than that. That was probably like the best game I've ever seen. It was the craziest, wildest game I've ever seen in my life. It was up there with the Yankees wild card game with Oakland when Jeter had that and he flipped it. You remember that one, Chip?
Yes.
So so the Rays game surpasses that one as like the craziest, wildest World Series game I've ever seen in my life. That was nuts. Like Twitter exploded after that whole sequence. Like was less than like two minutes long, and then like just Twitter exploded. Like the social media platform just like crapped its pants after seeing that whole sequence. It was nuts. Like that's why I love playoff baseball so much is like NFL is great when it comes to crazy plays, but when it comes to playoff baseball, when it's like 2 outs, bottom ninth, you're down by, a run to at least tie it. Like this whole sequence happens where you actually walk it off and win the game because of 2 misplays by the Dodgers players. Like the probability, you should have seen the probability meter in ESPN for the Dodgers win percentage. It went from 100%. It was like the stock market crashed. 100%, and then bam, it dropped. Somebody created a meme where Randy Arozarena was running, and then when he tumbled, that was when the Dodgers probability like crashed. Was that when he stumbled and fell to the ground? That's how nuts it was. And then going into Game 5 is like, okay, maybe Game 4 was like a momentum swing where the Rays would go into Game 5. And take Game 5, but no, then Kershaw comes up and deals, and then it's nail biting time because Game 6 it's pretty much you got to win tonight, and then you got to win tomorrow night to win the whole series. So it's like nail biting time. Like I won't have any nails, like Kaylee has no nails.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know if it's. I mean, I think that sequence of plays. I think that, like you said, Bush, when you look back, and that was 2 minutes. It was just unbelievable. And I know myself, I was at a Halloween party and the whole party had stopped and everybody was watching the TV. And I mean, it was just like, and it also took a minute to digest that because no one knew really what happened because the camera guy even lost the play when that happened. So we all paused and went, wait a minute, we did? And then everybody kind of caught up. But yeah, the sequence of events that took place to have the Rays win. And I kind of think you hit the nail on the head, Al Bushman. I think the emotional drain, like the high. You go into that game and then you run into Kershaw, the buzzsaw. And I mean, it just kind of it drains you. So hopefully the Rays are a little bit rejuvenated. You get some of that rest back, some of the energy restored, and got to come out and win today.
Kaylee, what were your thoughts on that? I know you really hate Joe Buck a lot, but like his call, his call, the whole. I actually was like, man, I kind of like Joe Buck now because of this whole sequence of calling, because he was like going nuts too. I wanted to get your thoughts on that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe Buck is great for baseball. Like, that's what I'll say about Joe Buck. He's great for baseball, and he's great for those big baseball moments because, like we've talked about, he doesn't add a lot of value to the conversation when it's just like he's just commentating. But, like, when you have a big play and the goal and the job at that moment is to give your reaction and to be a fan in that moment, I really do think that that's kind of where he excels. So I do enjoy, I've watched that replay quite a few times, so I do enjoy him on that call. I'll say, when it comes to football, that's a completely different story. I don't even want to get into him calling football.
Do you know how many times I watched that sequence over and over? Like over
682.
I just imagine you went to bed with it like running continuously on replay. That's what I imagine.
I did, and then I woke up in the middle of the night and I had to rewatch it again in the middle of the night.
I kind of imagine you like after game 5 was like crying and watching it over again, and you're like, but game 4.
I wasn't that emotional.
Well, we're heading into game 6 tonight. Obviously, the Dodgers are looking for their first franchise win since 1988. The Rays, their first franchise win ever. So, are we going to Game 7, or the Dodgers going to pull it out tonight? What do you think?
Chip, I'm going to go with you because I'm not predicting anything right now.
I mean, well, yeah, and Evan and I, we're both pretty, baseball superstitious is what we call it. So try not to predict too much. I mean, obviously, I want the Rays to win. I hope they, and I've never played in a World Series, unfortunately, but I wish I could. I hope they get the feeling that they can kind of relax a little bit. I know they have to win, but really all the pressure is squarely on the Dodgers to close it out. The Rays have been just a great story all year. They can never be counted out, and I just want them to have that same energy and just the same fight that they've always had. So
give me 2 seconds. My Wi-Fi's back on. I'll be back in the show.
Oh, look at this guy. So like he said, he doesn't want to predict because he's superstitious, but I think some of the key things the Rays are going to have to do, like I said, play loose. I mean, just stay within yourselves. I think that they have a great opportunity with Blake Snell on the hill tonight. You know that his stuff can work as long as he's getting all of his pitches kind of in the zone. And he's a very streaky pitcher. Once he gets locked in, I think the Rays can hopefully get a run or two. The fifth inning seems to be Blake Snell's area or region where he seems to get into trouble. So if you're the Rays, you need to evaluate that as soon as possible. Be realistic. We all know that the pens have been a little bit overworked, and the Rays sometimes have had to go to their pen early. So really it's all arms on deck in the bullpen. Anybody who's fresh or anybody says they can go will have to go tonight. And I think count's getting higher and get to the pen. Hopefully they can position themselves to have a good shot.
Yeah, for sure. And, bias aside, I love a Game 7 in a championship series. So I'm rooting for Game 7 and for the Rays. But let's transition, since Evan's not going to make predictions, let's transition over to Monday Night Football and talk about the Rams beating the Bears 24-10. Obviously, a stat I love to hear over the weekend, I believe I heard it on the Athletic Football Show, but the Rams' 4 wins prior to last night's game were all against the NFC East, which it's not a great stat for the Rams. And the Bears were coming in 5-1. They have Nick Foles, but they were looking like a decent defense, a decent team that could come in and maybe pull that upset a little bit. But obviously, we saw the Rams defense stepped up. This team has kind of been flying under the radar, but in a tough division, is it possible that they could emerge as playoff contenders this season, or no? Is that out of the question with the Seahawks and the Cardinals?
Man, I got to say, well, what a great game with the Seahawks and Cardinals, obviously, Monday, which was unbelievable. But I think this division is probably usually I'm a homer for the NFC South, and I love it. I love this. I get to control Evan not coming in or coming in. He's waving and dancing right now. Here we go. Let's bring him in. Hey, buddy.
Those bastards tease me. My Wi-Fi's not up yet. God damn
it. Well, we were just discussing the Monday Night Football game last night. I was going to give Kaylee my take that the Rams could potentially everybody's kind of been sleeping, and most of their victories have been against the NFC least teams. So they haven't really seen a lot of good competition. And what I think with the Rams is they can definitely be on the radar. Having Sean McVay and having him get introduced to the league, he kind of came out and he was like the shiny new object. Still one of the youngest head coaches, or I think the youngest head coach in the NFL right now. So the NFL kind of figured him out, and I think he kind of respun and redid some things. They kept a lot of continuity within their team, especially their offense. And their defense has already been great. So, yeah, I think the Rams could be in playoff contention, although, like we said, really tough division. Great game, Al Bushman, Monday night with Seattle and Arizona, with Arizona pulling it out.
Yeah, man. I watched the game last night, and it really showed me that Chicago is really that bad of a team. I mean, now they've actually faced somebody that's actually good. Now, the whole Tampa Bay game when they played Tampa Bay on Thursday night, that was just an anomaly. But now coming into this Monday night game, the Rams have really they don't really need Todd Gurley. They got rid of Todd Gurley for a reason, and their run game is going to be pretty good with Malcolm Brown in the backfield and everything like that too. And their defense has really kind of come back to form the way that it was a couple of years ago when they went to that Super Bowl run, because Aaron Donald's a beast. That guy is just like a Terminator. So what I saw last night was a Rams team that's really kind of flying underneath the radar because not a lot of people are talking about them, because mostly they're focusing on how in the hell the Bears are 5-1 coming into this game. So now I think everybody's going to be like, okay, now we know what the Bears are really like. They're just inept on offense. Their defense looked okay. Their defense was really okay. They just didn't get any help on the offensive side, and that's what we all knew was true with having Nick Foles under center. So we now know what the Bears look like actually for real. And now the Rams are just going to keep rolling. I think they're going to be a playoff contender when it comes to reaching the playoff form.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think obviously they stepped it up. I was telling Chip, Evan, before you hopped on the stream, I believe all 4 of their games that they have won were NFC East games. So when you look at that stat, 4-2 is not quite as impressive as a 4-2 team, maybe with a different schedule, but obviously they are the real deal. The question is Cam Newton the real deal? Because we saw the Patriots look a little lost. I think we opened the season thinking that Belichick had kind of taken the system, taken the equation, applied it to Cam Newton and figured it out. Obviously, they steamrolled the Dolphins. They looked pretty competitive against the Seahawks early, but now they have back-to-back losses against the Broncos and the 49ers, and Cam Newton was benched in the 4th quarter. So what is the future of Cam Newton, the Patriots? What do you do at this point if you're Bill Belichick?
This is his second game where he's had multiple INTs, multiple interceptions. So, and he even said yesterday that my job is in jeopardy if I don't play, if I keep playing like this. And if I was Cam, you need to maybe stop wearing the grandma clothes and stop worrying about your fashion line and really worry about your job. Because I honestly thought having him being in the replacement for Tom Brady would be a good thing, because Josh McDaniels can really focus on building an offense around Cam, because he's a runner too. He's a mobile quarterback. He's got a big arm, and just what I've seen is just lostness. What is going on in that offense? So maybe Belichick needs to make a change. Maybe they just need to roll with Jarrett Stidham and just have Cam kind of sit on the sidelines and see, Maybe they are missing Tom Brady, because Tom Brady was a system quarterback and Cam Newton is not.
Yeah, I think that – I know that Cam is still – I think the NFL season, and everybody has to deal with COVID, but if you don't practice, you don't get reps. And then you lose the speed of the game. Now, Cam's a pro. He's been in the NFL for a long time, and he understands that. So – I think he's kind of knocking maybe a little bit of that rust off for being off of COVID, and maybe I give him a pass. But, obviously this is something that the Patriots are used to winning, and Bill Belichick is used to winning. And this is going to be something that they're not going to take laying down. And if they have to make aggressive changes, like pulling all the starters off and just letting the second stringers run, I mean, they'll definitely do something like that. But I laugh because I go back to our Sunday show. I think all of us took the Patriots just because of their name and not because of their talent. And that's something now that is in jeopardy, and that everybody, I think, is kind of looking at and going, wow, this isn't the team that we've always known, and this isn't the franchise anymore that's always in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and I think
he's been dropped in so many fantasy leagues, it's not even funny.
That's kind of sad. But I think you look at the Patriots too, and it's hard to believe that coming off a loss, even with Cam Newton playing as poorly as he did against the Broncos, that they would go out and lose to a relatively depleted 49ers team. I mean, you got Jimmy Garoppolo back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're at the caliber that they were before in the Super Bowl. So we'll see where Cam Newton lands. But I agree. I think you kind of prove a point if you're Bill Belichick at this point. Now, speaking of second-string quarterbacks and third-string quarterbacks, we've got Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton could be out for the Cowboys. He is in concussion protocol. They lost 25-3 to the Washington football team.
Wow.
Let's touch on a few topics from this, because now we're looking at a third string Ben DiNucci. I believe he was a late draft pick.
Seventh round to be exact.
They also signed Garrett Gilbert from Cleveland, obviously former Alliance of American Football quarterback, backed up Baker Mayfield for a couple years after the Alliance. So what did they – I mean, I don't even know what they can do, but let's talk through their options at this point in the season. If they're still trying to be competitive in the NFC East, which, as we've all said, is possible any given week. But what can they do? Chip?
I mean, really, this is kind of like my dream for Dallas. Like, I wanted to see just a cataclysmic explosion, and it's happening. And I don't know. Honestly, if I was Jerry Jones right now and I was sitting there, I'm slamming and throwing the panic button up against the wall, and it's broken. And I'd be looking to trade everybody. And that's why I'd never be an owner. But I mean, they said that they've made Everson Griffin, who's an older pass rusher, who might, go to a team that needs a piece or two. But I mean, really, if you're Dallas and you look at what you've invested and how much cap space you have and what you have in front of you, I mean, you're going to have to pay Dak when he comes back now. I think you have to now, because you see the value of an NFL quarterback. But I think everybody else has already known that. But really, if you're Dallas, I don't think they've come out and already said publicly they're not going to get a quarterback. I think you try to shed salary, and you hope that you don't kill anybody else. I mean, if there's another quarterback back there and he dies, you got to go. You got to get somebody. So I just pray, I guess. I mean, I have CeeDee Lamb in fantasy football, and I'm getting ready to release him or trade him. But I don't think I'm going to take him. So I don't know, El Bushman. What do you? I see we're all laughing because we have a fan of the Cowboys.
We're at a loss.
We have two big Cowboys fans that are part of FanStream. We have Taylor and we have Ruth, who I'm sure they both have been just – I know we all know Taylor. We know how he is. He likes to deflect his anger and his frustration onto us because he can't handle his team being so bad and so terrible. I don't know, man. I look at it this way, Christmas has come early for all of us in football because the Cowboys are so bad. The whole NFC least is bad. It's so bad. Even Alabama could probably beat them right now in a game. That's how bad they probably are.
All four of those teams, Alabama.
Yeah, that's how bad.
If you took the best players from all four of those teams and made one super team, Alabama could still beat them.
Probably. And I was kind of looking at this yesterday. It's should they tank the rest of the way, or do they go out maybe trade for a veteran? I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is, he's got last year in his contract in Miami. Jameis Winston is third stringer in New Orleans. I mean, there's some guys out there that you could trade for, but is it worth trading to get a veteran to come in and maybe right the ship? Because that's what you thought you were going to have with Andy Dalton by signing him for that backup deal, and now he's in concussion protocol for at least a week. So what if you're Jerry Jones? What do you tank the rest of the way, or are you just trying and fight and scratch and claw in this terrible division where you could probably win it with 5 or 6 wins? Or maybe do you just say, hey, you know what, screw it, we're going to wait till next year when Dak hopefully comes back after his rehabilitation? I don't honestly care what the Cowboys do, but if I was Jerry Jones, and we all know Jerry Jones is a competitor, he's not one to quit.
Yeah,
he's gonna figure out. He's gonna try and bring in pieces or try and figure it out to try and win more games, because we all know Jerry. He's not gonna just give up and lay over and die. But honestly, I hope the Cowboys do continue to play this bad and terribly, because it gives us all something to laugh at on Mondays and Tuesdays when we talk about football.
So great. God.
It does. It's a little funny. But obviously the way in which they turned out this bad is not great. Obviously, we saw Andy Dalton go out with the John Bostic hit to the helmet.
Yep. That was a scary play.
Scary play. He's not expected to be suspended. Andy Dalton was sliding. Obviously, if you're going by NFL bylaws, he would be suspended. And then the team is getting a lot of pushback about their lack of reaction, because had that been Dak under center taking that kind of hit, would they have gotten in Bostic's face? Would they have, started something on the field? Are they willing to go to bat for Dak in a way that they didn't do for Andy Dalton? And what does that say about their locker room? So do you think that how do you feel about their reaction or lack thereof? And do you feel like that's indicative of what's going on with their coaching staff and their locker room, and how that team culture is kind of turning out as the season goes along?
I think that Dak was kind of the super glue. I mean, Dak was the one that kind of led them back for these first handful of games, and they got down and kept the offense moving and kept everybody together. Now, when you take a leader out of the locker room, this is what you get. You get chaos. You get guys that are going different directions. Some guys are playing for themselves. You're making stupid penalties, and there's no accountability within the locker room right now with the players. So, and especially when the players are coming out against the coaching staff, that's when you know that shit is just not doing very well. And I mean, the unfortunate part is that this team is going backwards when they really need to be coming together, because there is no leadership. And that's what we're seeing, and that's going to suffer. They're going to hurt for that.
Yeah, with all the reports about the team kind of doing a mutiny against the coaching staff, saying they're not prepared, they're not wanting to make moves and be coaches. It's kind of like this almost seems reminiscent of when Mike McCarthy was in his last couple of years in Green Bay, where like Aaron Rodgers was getting so frustrated with the play calling because it was just outdated, and just seemed like Mike McCarthy didn't care. He didn't want to coach there. So now it's like, okay, you're bringing the same I don't care attitude to Dallas now, where you were supposed to be the leader for this team, update your playbook. I mean, obviously, Dak is a huge blow to this whole team. So, but when now you have the team just kind of doing an upheaval, it's like, what do? Should you fire the coaching staff? Should you start anew? Like, we have seen where first year coaches have been fired within the first couple of games. We've seen that before. I mean, this could maybe happen with Mike McCarthy. You never know. Mike McCarthy should be looking over his shoulder every single day once he walks into Jerry World, honestly.
I mean, I agree. I think also too, you can coach wins, but when you lose your locker room, I think that's where problems start to come in. And for him to have lost the locker room, what seems like in the first 5 weeks of his coaching career in Dallas, it's a little concerning. I mean, much less getting your quarterback almost killed, but also just the fact of your players are not supportive of you. I think it's a tough road ahead for Dallas. But let's jump over to Todd Gurley and the Atlanta Falcons, because one ring above Dallas is Atlanta, really. Just one, maybe a half ring above. And I actually really love this moment that happened, because I was the lone wolf picking the Lions to win this game. Because I knew that if any team was going to just throw it away right at the end, it was going to be the Falcons. So
of course,
we'll start with Chip, because Todd Gurley, for those of you who weren't watching, failed to stop short of the goal line to waste run time off the clock. He scored an accidental touchdown, and he feels very bad about it, he said. So, Chip, how do you feel about Atlanta just doing what they do this weekend?
They're just plain out just silly, dude, and it kills me. And I want to get to one comment. Sean Goglin came in a couple minutes ago, and he asked about Chase Edmonds available in fantasy for his Fab League, and he's asking if he should use all of his Fab money on Edmonds this week. For me personally, if you're really short on running backs, Kenyon Drake, they said, is week to week. So I don't know. It could be 1 week or it could be 3 weeks. If you're really down in running back, Sean, I would use most of your Fab to get him. If you have a losing record, you're not going anywhere. I mean, you could probably do that. If you're in the playoff hunt, then I might curtail depending upon your current roster. So what do you guys think? Any advice for Sean?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
I wanted to get to it. I know he kind of waited. He pinged us 5 minutes ago, and we got to a good conversation. He said he's in a fantasy league, and he has available his Fab money for his league, and he wanted to know if he should use it all on Chase Edmonds because Kenyon Drake obviously is injured. They just don't know how long his injury is, and we don't know what other pieces he has.
Just depends on what other running backs he has, honestly. I mean, if these guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blow all my money on it, but I would try and make a huge bid for him. I mean, we all saw what Chase Edmonds can do fantasy wise, and he's definitely a hot waiver wire pickup this week.
Yeah. Okay. So Falcons questions. Thanks, Sean, for the question. Falcons. Yeah. Even when we try to win, we lose. Todd Gurley is a smart player. They talked about this in the huddle. You've seen him run out the clock before when he was a Ram. I think he was actually playing Dallas, and he had the wide open end zone, and he actually button hooked and went around, ran a circle, and then fell down. So this is just something that mental lapse. I mean, honestly, I can't blame. I mean, I want to kill Todd Gurley. Don't get me wrong, and I would never do that. But the defense, you can't let a team march down in a minute and score. That just can't happen. So. Yeah, we're worried about draft picks right now, not W's. So that's what I'm going to say, and that's what I'm going to stick with.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
As a Todd Gurley owner, hold on, my phone's just making me angry right now.
Yeah, you seem a little.
You're a little disheveled,
unsettled. Yeah.
Oh my god,
struggling.
I think he was saying that's
so.
Okay.
As a Todd Gurley owner, I'm okay with this. I mean, scoring an extra touchdown for me is fantastic. So. When I saw that happen, I was like, okay, well, you just cost your team probably the game, but you gave me another touchdown in fantasy. So whatever you can do to help me in fantasy, I'm okay with you being a dummy and not wasting out the clock. So, I would say sorry, Chip, but I think that play yesterday just kind of summed up Atlanta's season as a whole totally by him not falling down and wasting the time clock. It's just it's almost sad and poetic that your team is just this bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Start the rebuild. Give me a new coach. Give me a new PM. Give me a side of fries and a large Coke, dude. Ready to go. Bam.
Everyone's tanking this season. You gotta love it. So I want to know your one bold prediction for this trade deadline. I want to say we have a week exactly before the trade deadline in the NFL. So I want you each to give me your one bold prediction on who's going where before the deadline comes.
I mean, I don't know if I can predict boldly who's going to go somewhere, but I think that the Falcons, a lot of talk has obviously been around Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. The organization's come out and said they're not really going to go anywhere. There's cap ramifications. There's things like that. But, I mean, I would have loved to have seen, I can think of some teams where Julio Jones would be great. I mean, if you put him in either the Patriots or if you brought him to another team like Green Bay or something like that, opposite of Devontae Adams, I know that just thinking about the Falcons players that could have left, I think that would have been really awesome just to see one of those guys. And I would have loved to have seen Matt Ryan and a 49ers. I mean, if you move him and then you get Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, and I mean, Kyler Murray, that would have been a sight to have Matt Ryan and 49ers red and gold and have that division and really have the season wind down. That would have been awesome. So I couldn't really predict who's going to move, but those are some of the things that I was thinking about that would really be awesome to see.
I would say anybody from the Falcons, the Dallas Cowboys are on the move. The Jets, I mean, all those bottom feeder teams that have nothing else to lose except for draft capital. I'm surprised that. I mean, you know what, Sam? I mean, it's Sam Darnold could be on the move. You could see a team like Dallas say, "Hey, we want Sam Darnold to come in and make our team better." But I don't. The one really off the wall trade pieces, and Chip, you talked about this before with Julio and Matt Ryan being the dangling pieces that Atlanta could say, hey, you know what, maybe it's time for us to part ways with these guys, even though they've been kind of the faces of the franchise for a long time. But Julio's on the other side of 30. He's owed a lot of money. Matt Ryan's getting up there in age too. He probably has a couple of years left too as well. So if I was a team, I'd be calling Atlanta and saying, hey man, what can I give you for Julio, or what can I give you for Matt Ryan? So I think those guys are probably maybe on the move.
Awesome.
No. Come on.
It's possible. I mean, I feel like we've seen so many times teams be like, oh, they're not going anywhere. And then 2 days later, they're going somewhere. So it's definitely possible. But we'll see what happens.
I think if I'm Dallas, I'm trading a wide receiver. That would be a bold thing. Yeah. Trade either Amari Cooper, trade a Gallup. They won't trade CeeDee Lamb. They just drafted him. But you can trade some of those guys.
Yeah.
See what you can get, because teams need wide receivers.
Agreed.
I agree. And I think like an offense of weapons is no use if you don't have a quarterback under center that can really throw to them. So I think they're struggling in that sense. But let's close out with a little game, rapid fire, human or robot. We have 4 rapid fire. Okay, we'll start with you, Chip. DK Metcalf.
Oh God, robot. Freaking man-child. Manimal is what I call him.
Evan.
Robot. If I don't see a Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf 40-yard sprint or 100-yard dash between the two, I'll be very disappointed. But I say robot. That dude is a freak.
All right, Tom Brady.
Human.
Vampire.
That I can agree with. That I can agree with.
Added category. I love it.
Derrick Henry.
Oh God. Robot. Yeah. Bowling ball. Basher.
Yeah.
Giant. Rob Gronkowski.
He is definitely a robot because he's got so much metal in that body, and he's kind of stupid too.
I'll say. Well, robot because of his dance moves. You seen that guy at spring break, dude? Shake a tail feather. Look out.
Oh goodness. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Oh God.
I hope my Wi-Fi gets back up and running, and fingers crossed for tonight with Game 6, and go Rays. Blake Snell is on the mound. The Dodgers are doing a bullpen day, so odds are in our favor.
We had Benny drop in on Facebook, and he said, how about calling the defense the Kraken or the Kraken?
The Kraken.
I like it.
I like
the Kraken
for
defense. Rays up, dude. Let's freaking bring it home. Falcons are on Thursday night, and I'm never picking them. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. This has been another episode of Sports Caffeine. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Caffeine 1, on YouTube, Facebook, and fanstreamsports.com at Sports Caffeine. See you next